What happened to Panera Bread? $71.62 for 3 sandwiches, 2 of them that were grilled cheese, and 2 soups.
15-ish years ago, I was able to afford a 1-bedroom luxury apartment off a $50,000 a year salary. I was just having a conversation with someone that worked for me a couple years ago, and she's signing her first job offer, making $106,000 a year right out of college. She, I don't believe, has student loan debt. Obviously, inner city is going to be more expensive. My apartment was in the suburbs of Boston. However, she cannot find a place to rent within reason without having at least 2 roommates. $106,000 with very financially responsible person. And it's wild when I have conversations with those that are in their 60s and 70s and truly don't understand the cost of living and why the birth rate is declining. I don't know, Susie, because most people my age, and I'm a millennial, I'm 38, and most people my age and younger, they don't feel like they can responsibly take care of themselves. And so you want people to be responsible. Well, close your legs if you can't afford to have a child, and then the birth rate declines. And it's like, well, I don't understand why. Because a lot of my friends with young kids, they have to have 2 salaries to afford life, but their childcare is the cost of their mortgage, if not more. And they bought homes at like a good time too. Like they have a really good interest rate. Like their mortgage isn't unaffordable as much as a lot of mortgages are now, but their childcare is their mortgage. So they're like owning 2 homes to have children, to be able to stay in the workforce so they can just afford life.
Every time I get paid and then I realize that I have barely any money left over after paying like rent and all my bills and all these things, I always tend to blame myself a lot because I have no discipline when it comes to money. Never had, but I pay my rent on time, I pay my bills and all these things. And I was looking at my statement and I was like, okay, this is not anything crazy. A coffee here and there, a meal here and there, drinks here and there, like things that I do for entertainment and for like my own pleasure shouldn't really set me back that much. Like unless I'm fucking going to Gucci, which I wouldn't go to Gucci, but like I don't know, let's just I'm saying I'm going to Yves Saint Laurent, getting some shit, like I get that. I don't even have YSL money, but you know what I mean. Like I'm not doing anything crazy. Like where's all my money going? Where's all my money going? We know where it's going, but it's just, I need to stop punishing myself because it's not all on me. Could I work on saving a little bit more? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I really don't think I spend that much. And it's just gone all the time. It's just literally gone.
Hey YouTube, one of the biggest things people have been noticing lately is that life feels expensive in ways they never expected. We're even doing something right, so it doesn't seem to make money go as far as it used to. In this video, we're looking at the conversations people are having online, and breaking down why so many adults are feeling stuck between wanting independence and realizing how expensive basic adulthood has become. We're going to focus on how housing, everyday spending, and the little costs people ignore are changing the way an entire generation views money and their future.
We literally cannot do that. That is what we are trying to tell you. That is what we have been trying to tell boomers for decades now at this point. The economy that you had, the economy that was handed to you, is not the economy that you handed to us. The economy that you were given was gobbled up and consumed by you, by the boomer generation, and you all decided to leave nothing for the generations behind you. Your parents didn't do that, your grandparents didn't do that, but boomers did that. Boomers have been catered to for their entire lives. Our entire economic system has been centered around boomers since they were born. When they were born, we had a huge baby boom. That's why they're called boomers. Guess when we got a whole bunch of brand new schools in this country? When baby boomers were starting to go to school. Guess when we got a whole bunch of housing in this country? When baby boomers were starting to buy houses. And then comes the 80s with Reagan and all of your fantastic politics that brought us to where we are today, where you destroyed any sort of media regulation so that now anything can call themselves news and not have any repercussions. You don't have to have any sort of balanced news sources. You robbed Social Security to pay for all of the cuts that Reagan did in the 80s. You deregulated all of the industries so all of the corporations and all of the industries could make even more money off the backs of people that were actually working for that money and for that company. And now you're senior citizen age, your social security age, and you're worried about social security. And that's all anybody can talk about now is social security, when you are the ones that robbed social security in the 80s in order to pay for all of that shit that happened and left nothing for anybody else behind you. And you are trying to tell us that we can do it just like you did when you were 20 years old or whatever, when you bought your first starter home. It's not the same. It is not the same today as it was when you were young, and it is directly because of you and your actions and what you have done to this economy. Period.
For a lot of people, the hardest part about becoming an adult isn't the idea of working hard, it's realizing how expensive independence has become. For years, the usual path sounded simple: get a job, save money, move out, and eventually buy a house. But for many young people today, that timeline feels completely disconnected from reality. The biggest example of this is housing, because rent has become one of those expenses that can take up a huge part of someone's income before they even pay for anything else. A salary that sounded impressive when you hear it out loud can feel impossible when a large chunk disappears every month just to have a place to live. That's why you see some people making decent money but still needing roommates, living further away, or staying with family longer than they originally planned. It creates this weird feeling that someone can be responsible, have a job, and still feel like they're falling behind. The frustrating part is that a lot of the advice about money was built around a completely different economy. Buying a house used to feel like a realistic goal for someone who worked consistently and saved over time. Now, many people are watching home prices rise faster than their ability to keep up, making that goal feel less like a plan and more like something they have to hope happens. Even renting, which used to be seen as an easier first step, has become a challenge by itself. Some people are spending so much on housing that saving for the future almost becomes impossible. And when that first step towards independence already feels overwhelming, it changes how people think about everything that comes after it. It's hard to plan for things like investing, starting a family, or building wealth when just trying to afford a normal place to live takes so much effort. That's why so many young people feel like they're playing by the same rules but getting a completely different result. The expectations haven't changed, but the prices of reaching those expectations has. A lot of people aren't asking for an easy life. They're wondering why the basic milestones they were told to aim for now require so much more money and time. And the gap between what people were promised adulthood would look like and what they're actually experiencing is where a lot of this frustration comes from.
Maybe I'm spoiled, but hear me out. I just feel like every apartment should come with Wi-Fi. Like, it just should. Like, am I crazy? Because if I gotta pay all these fees, I gotta pay the move-in fee, I gotta pay the security deposit, I gotta pay the admin fee, let alone the fee to pay for the application to even apply for the apartment. I gotta pay the trash fee, I gotta pay community fees, I gotta pay every fee known to man, the living fee, a breathing fee, a pet fee, a pool fee, a maintenance fee, a amenity fee. I gotta pay every fee under the sun. And you mean to tell me you can't give me Wi-Fi in an apartment that I already pay over 2 bands for a month? That's what you telling me? I just feel like that should be included. Like, is that too much to ask? I don't know.
I am so tired of apartment complexes and apartment locators not being transparent about pricing. If you tell me that rent is starting at a certain price, and then you tell me that they're advertising a certain special, say 2 months free, I'm thinking that 2 months free is coming after the unit starting price. But if I get to the tour and you tell me that 2 months free is already factored in, then you're a liar. You cannot say that the unit is starting at a price and then say that they have a concession, but the concession is already factored into the starting price, because that's not the starting price, that's the ending price.
We're at Taco Bell, and let me just show you what the burritos look like now. What is this? This is not a burrito. This is, like, what? Like, 5-layer beefy burrito my ass. 5 layers. 5 layers of what? Like, I can... I also had, like, the new shredded beef taco. Don't get it. It's... no. just no. Just save your money. At least the Baja Blast is still good. Like, you can't mess up a Baja Blast. Well, you can't.
The thing that makes the cost of living problem feel so exhausting is that it's not always one giant purchase reading someone's budget. It's the hundreds of small moments where people start realizing their money doesn't stretch as far as it used to. A quick meal after school, grabbing something with friends, or stopping somewhere without thinking too much usually felt like normal everyday spending. Now, those same small purchases can make people pause because the prices feel completely different than what they remember. A lot of people have had that moment where they buy something simple and then look at the total wondering how it got that expensive. The problem is that these increases don't all just happen at once, so people slowly have to adjust without even realizing how much has changed. A few extra dollars there, a smaller portion there, and suddenly the things that used to feel affordable start feeling like occasional treats. That's where shrinkflation has become such a big frustration because people notice that they're sometimes paying more while getting less. It creates this feeling that even when someone's trying to move carefully with money, they're still losing ground. People aren't only comparing prices from last year, they're comparing them from what everyday life used to feel like. A meal that was supposed to be a cheap option can suddenly turn into something that feels like a luxury. And when every category starts doing this, it changes the way people interact with money. Instead of casually buying something, people start calculating whether it's actually worth it. Instead of feeling like their income gives them freedom, they feel like they're constantly trying to avoid wasting money. That mindset can become draining because it feels like every small decision feels like a financial choice. The reason this bothers some people is because they aren't usually things that are buying to live some extravagant life. They're talking about normal experiences, basic food, a place to live, and small things that make life enjoyable. When those things are feeling harder than ever to afford, it creates this feeling that the definition of normal life is changing. And that might just be the biggest reason people are paying attention to prices now. It's not just about spending more money, it's about realizing how much harder it has become to maintain the same lifestyle.